The paranormal industry exists on the backs of the deceased. As such, it's a fine line when investigators or ghost hunters go and make content on these stories, content that is consumed as entertainment. Now, of course, we all love a good mystery, whether it's a cold case or something that goes bump in the night, but lately there's been a weird crossover happening. Paranormal investigators are inserting themselves into real-life murder cases, claiming they've got ghostly evidence, spirit box messages, haunted crime scenes, you name it. But do they really? Are ghost hunters hijacking true crime just to chase clicks and views? Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Florio. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be digging into the blurry line where ghost stories and true crime meet, and how some ghost hunters might be warping facts, fabricating evidence, and just spinning wild tales. It's all in an effort to get their 15 minutes of fame. Is this all spooky insight or straight up exploitation? If you're into the paranormal and you love true crime, but you also like your facts factual, then this one is for you. Let's pull back the curtain on how some of these ghost hunters are turning tragedy into clickbait. Be aware, here's your trigger warning. We're going to be covering a lot of different topics and cases that involve unaliving, SA, CSA, self-unaliving, and more. So if you are not prepared to listen to a video about these topics right now, I completely understand. Biggest offender on YouTube. The blurring of lines of respect and falsified facts, it increases slowly every day until one day we realize that we're in the thick of it and it's gotten completely out of control. For me, that realization happened when I watched Boo Paranormal's video on Colin from the Paranormal Files. This past year, I really stopped watching pretty much all the paranormal channels. I've just found them so fake, and never being able to get their facts correct or stories straight, I just kind of gave up on them. I hadn't realized how bad some of the channels like Paranormal Files were getting now. Boo Paranormal covered the video Colin did on the Delphi Murders.
Colin, I'm not going to lie. Normally, I think you're a pretty nice guy, but in this case, you and your brother-in-law, Connor, are as guilty as Paranormal Nightmares. I can't stand this kind of stuff. Part conspiracy and part investigation. The theory of the satanic rituals Nordic rituals, or whatever kind of rituals it was, he really brought some good receipts to that argument. Since Colin has made his video, the trial is done and the guy was convicted. But then, just like Paranormal Nightmares, then we get into stuff that I think is at a very minimum insensitive, inappropriate. This is an ongoing case at the time that Colin made this video, and he's out there with an app providing answers, quote, to questions about the case. And I just don't think, I think that's out of bounds. I think that's extremely inappropriate. I think it's wrong. Paranormal Nightmares did it with their Chasing Evil series, and I said even about that one, the production of that series was freaking awesome. Like, I really, really enjoyed it, except what they were doing with the spirit boxes and using that. And obviously I caught them faking.
So, as explained in Boo Paranormal's video, I do realize it's not just Paranormal Files that is an issue here, and we're going to look at a few other people adding to the problem at the end of this video. I just found that the Paranormal Files, along with his second channel, Conspiracy Files, is spreading so much misinformation, it honestly really pissed me off. So yes, the majority of this video is going to be about Colin and his two channels. And yes, I understand that Colin in his videos will say things like, we're trying to be respectful, or, we're not accusing anyone of this, we're not saying this. But just because you're saying these disclaimers and you're saying that you're trying to be respectful, it doesn't absolve you of your actions. Being respectful would be not doing these kind of videos in the first place. In my opinion, these videos are disrespectful. These channels spread false information of true crime cases. They exploit tragedies, and they fuel conspiracy theories that aren't true. And that is harmful to society as a whole, especially when he has an audience of over 1 million people. I understand that on YouTube, we all have to use at least somewhat of a clickbaity title sometimes, and we need thumbnails that attract the viewer to click on our video. But his content inside each of the videos, it's as bad as the clickbait titles. He really reminds me, like a lot of his akin to the National Enquirer of the 90s. And just like we touched on for a moment there with Boo, Colin uses ITC devices in his investigations. And what his devices say, he then uses this new, aka false information to try and create a narrative for his videos and make it seem like he found some new clue or a breakthrough to a past criminal case. So then he can title his video New Evidence, and that's sort of something he does often. A lot of ghost hunters do this. I do realize it's not just him, and it's messed up in general. Changing the facts when real victims and their families also might still be out there. Well, some cases also haven't even been solved yet. It's unfair to the victims, the survivors, and it's just plain wrong. ITC devices, they don't help anyone or any of these cases. Oh, and also Colin uses a DR60 for EVPs, which is heavily debunked and has been recalled because it has false audio. Along with, as well, he uses the phone app Necrometer, which has major issues as well. I'm not going to get into the debunks of all these ITC devices. I recommend checking out videos done by Beardo, Mythos, Mr. Gray, Kenny Biddle, as well the articles written by Kenny Biddle if you want to learn more about why ITC devices are just complete garbage and don't actually help in any of these investigations. They just hinder the evidence. Also, just to make it clear, this kind of stuff does do damage. When you change the narrative and change the facts of a case, family could see it, friends could see it, even survivors. Some people survive some of these crimes too and escape from their, person that was coming at them. They might see it on YouTube, and you're spreading false information about it. And that's just kind of, it's messed up. On top of that, you never know. There could be a witness or something to something that happened. And then they see a video on YouTube and then that skews their witness testimony, which can also mess up cases too. Or sometimes these videos might go viral and then the police stations are inundated and they waste their time on people putting in calls and insisting that these things are real, because conspiracy theories, they go out of control really fast in today's day and age. A lot of critical thinking is really out the window. But all right, for this video, we're going to be reviewing a bunch of cases and referring to the videos Colin and his team made about these cases. And I'll be getting into the issues with his Conspiracy Files channel after we talk about some of these true crime channels. And as a reminder, don't go to any of these channels I mentioned here and spread any hate. The best solution to stuff like this is for everyone to just stop watching it. Don't encourage sensationalization in the paranormal community. Instead, watch the channels that do respect the victims and the facts and try to actually do scientific investigations. Now, before we begin, let's just take a moment to recognize and try to honor the victims of all these cases we're going to cover. Honoring the victims. There are a lot of cases and some have a lot of victims, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible for everyone. I'm going to put their name up on the screen as I list off each of the case names. So we're going to be covering the Delphi Murders, the Zodiac Killer, the Moors Murders, and Cecil Hotel, which also includes Richard Ramirez at the Cecil, and another SK, Jack Unterweger as well. Here's a list of people who struggled with life and took a different path out, if you know what I mean. As well, I want to briefly touch on the unnamed who have passed in the Cecil Hotel. Cecil is now a housing complex, and many have passed, whether due to addiction, crime, or so forth, something else. I asked one of my research team members, Joe, how we can best honor these unknown people, because a lot of them are unknown, as Joe lived this life at one point and is very familiar with Cecil Hotel. I was told to refer to Skid Row and this video, which I'm playing as visual footage as I talk here. I will also link that below as well, the person who made that video. Thank you for taking a moment with me on this. The Delphi Murders. So, just a brief summary of the case. I'm not going to go into tons of detail. I'm going to try to keep these cases brief as possible because, you could spend an hour or two going on each case. The Delphi Murders was the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. It occurred on February 13th, 2017, in Delphi, Indiana. Their bodies were discovered near the Monon High Bridge Trail, part of the Delphi Historic Trails from where the girls disappeared the previous day. This crime received extensive media coverage in part due to video and audio recordings released by law enforcement that came from one of the girls' smartphones, which recorded the individual believed to be the killer. The police eventually arrested Richard Matthew Allen, and he was charged, found guilty, went to jail. I'm going to try my best to limit how much of Colin's videos I play, but I'll try to show you clips here and there where valid. So the way that Colin's videos are laid out is the first half is like a true crime documentary, but he often includes conspiracy theories things in there. But that will also link to the conspiracy theory channel, which we'll get to a little bit later. But he starts off with the true crime documentary. Then they go into a paranormal investigation where they're on site doing a paranormal investigation. During these investigations, during the Delphi one specifically, they do get words and names on their apps that fit different narratives of this case. It seems like Colin really favors the odd narratives of cases, the conspiracy file narratives, and especially ones that relate to cults or child essay rings. Like he seems to really favor cases and theories like that. But yeah, the narrative is all over the place on this case when they're actually on site. So with the Delphi case, when Colin made his video, the court case hadn't finished yet. And the defense attorney tried to spin this really crazy narrative that their client didn't do it. Instead, they were trying to say it was a cult of Odin, specifically something called Odinism, which is a whole other issue, and we'll touch on that in a little bit.
A woman who has consulted for the United States government many, many times over the years, and her specialty is ritualistic murders, like satanic stuff like that. That the murders of Abby and Libby have every benchmark of a ritualistic murder. For example, took place out in nature where a lot of these ritualistic happen. They took place near a body of water, the river, where a lot of ritualists, instead of using a like the perpetrator had in the video, they used some sort of a sharp object. That's evidence of a ritualistic. Then she points out all of the sticks, the way the bodies were positioned.
Ritual murder expert and author of Investigating Religious and Ritualistic Crimes, Dawn Perlmutter, is with us.
Now, it's important to note that a lot of these like cult experts the FBI and everyone uses, a lot of them are also around and are also experts because they were sort of around during the Satanic Panic. And also a lot of these cult experts, that's all that they concentrate on, and they're like blinded by it, right? So all that they see is what'll fit inside their box. And like I've always been in true crime for like a long time, and I'm a pagan as well, and just the stuff that I hear come out of their like mouths is just ridiculous. It's reaching, so badly reaching. And I mean, I didn't do a deep dive on this lady because I spent a lot of time on other stuff as well with this, but this expert lady, Dawn Perlmutter, I just don't really take these cult experts seriously. Like they say the most outrageous stuff, and I've heard them a lot in interviews for decades, and they love to just blame everything on cults and make these pagan connections that just aren't there. But we're going to revisit the conspiracy theory about this cult murder stuff in a moment. So first, Colin and his team, they go out. Like I said, they do their investigation out by the trail where the girls were found. So on their devices, they get the name Richard on the Spirit Talker app. Again, these apps can't be trusted. You can view tons of debunks on the devices and especially the apps. Personally, I think these apps, a lot of them listen to what is being said around them. As you know, I've just seen a lot of videos where the apps get way too specific. And I don't know, I think they're listening in on some of the apps anyway.
We got Richard.
Richard? Wait, bro. Richard's the guy that was arrested, Richard Allen. I'm not kidding, Connor. Hold up, I'm going to verify that right now.
It is. Dude.
Okay, guys.
Richard, the first.
Oh
name
my
on
God,
screen.
bro. I got like full body just now. Oh my God, bro. I'm actually like, what?
Sacred ground. This is where they're doing the rituals.
I know. Okay, so I know there's going to be people watching our videos for the first time. We use these devices. These are phone apps. They work the same as ghost hunting devices like the Ovilus that you see all the time. They record basically energy fluctuations, put it through an algorithm, gives you a name or a word. You cannot manipulate that thing. There's no possible way for you to get into that app and add words or make words happen.
Specifically, that Necrometer app, which they're using and they show on their phones, you can go in and manipulate that one if you don't update it in the store. Because at one point, like, it was really broken for a long time, and a lot of people don't update it so that they can add words to it. So,
Oh, he is right. You cannot add words to the word bank in Spirit Talker. Some of the apps you can, especially if you haven't updated them, like Necromancer, I think, and I do believe GhostTube. I think you can still add the words as long as you haven't updated it. Honestly, it is odd that the first thing that came out of that thing was Richard Allen is the guy that was convicted of it. But then Sacred Ground. So they're telling almost two conflicting stories here. So either Richard did it or, based on what he said earlier, this other pair did it in this ritualistic manner. So those two things actually conflict each other, but I do believe that they're random and, kind of like, or a broken clock is right.
okay, so like Boo said, and the app is the one that they're using that you can add stuff to. But like Boo said, technically, this app, it's conflicting the narrative. The Colin really wants to, like, he really likes the conspiracy theory narrative, but both these narratives are happening at the same time, So there's the cult thing, the sacred ground, and then but the app says Richard, which is the name of the guy who was arrested. So like it's one or the other, because the conspiracy theory about the cult means that Richard didn't do it. So like Boo said, it doesn't make sense. They conflict one another. Regardless if you even add stuff to it or if you don't, I really do think a lot of these apps do listen to us talk as well. And a lot of them have GPS locations. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that they do. I don't trust these apps, let alone, all these devices are just BS anyways. They're just dictionary like software that just spits out words. Like they don't mean anything. They haven't been proven to work or like any sort of scientific way. But the biggest thing that these ghost hunting videos, they also as well, remember, they edit them a lot. So how many words went by and how much dead time went by before they got words to fit their narrative? And how many words did they wait until they got a word to fit their narrative as well? Like, also, you can see that they tend to ignore stuff that doesn't fit their narrative. I'll show you one here.
Sickness took me.
Bro. That was a like footstep right there.
So they do this throughout the whole thing. They hear noises and freak out about them. But so there's an instance where the app didn't fit their narrative, so they didn't mention it. There's no way that they could fit that into the story that they're trying to tell. So they just ignored that.
We are the complete opposite of trying to sensationalize anything here. If you see us get surprised or shocked, it's because genuinely.
Okay, and then like in all their videos, multiple times they're like, oh, we're trying to respect them. Oh, we're not trying to sensationalize it. Like they say it multiple times in their videos. And when someone has to repeat themselves over and over again and constantly do that, it always comes into question about how self-aware they are that it looks like they're doing that. But also a lot of people tend to repeat themselves and deny things when they know that they're doing something wrong. And, them repeating it so often in all their videos is also very telling as well. Okay, let's dive a little bit more into this Delphi case so I can show you how to analyze stuff like this. The Delphi case. Okay, so to start, Odinism. Odinism is a religious movement. It's based on the old Nordic religions. Now, in this case, the defense attorneys and many conspiracy theorists like Colin really are hooked onto the idea that Odin cult members did this crime. So there's two things about this. First, in Norse religion, it was not honorable to take someone's life outside of battle. Only those who fell in battle would make it to Valhalla. So if an Odin cult really exists, And if they're following the religion of, what happened during the pagan times with Nordic religion, then they wouldn't be taking people's lives like this, especially not children. It doesn't make any sense. Second, there are reports that say, how do I say this? Like for YouTube, the Caucasian people who don't like people who don't look like them, if you know what I mean, right? Those type people. Supposedly, Odinism is the only religion solely created by Caucasian people. This is what's said online. So there is apparently a rash of gangs who are using Odinism. I don't know how much of this is true. This is just what I read up about. Either way, it seems very far-fetched that they would randomly do this to two children. And this whole Odinism stuff is like, it's so strange, But let's move on from that. Now that I've explained what Odinism is, let's get actually into the next question. How is Odinism associated with the Delphi murders? All right, so there was a memo that went out that claimed that evidence of the crime scene supports Odinist practices, including symbols in the form of runes. The memo says that these runes were 1, formed with sticks, and 2, fashioned with tree branches, and 3, painted using the blood of one of the girls. As well, it was stated that blood found on a tree was in the form of an F symbol that was supposed to match a runic F from, Nordic runes. So let's talk a little bit about this ridiculous thing for a minute. So these sticks, people said they would say things like, why place so few sticks? Why place them so randomly? The few sticks doesn't hide anything. So people who then decided to think critically about this during the case, before more information came out, they stated a few ideas, right? Because instead of jumping to crazy conclusions, why don't we talk about what makes sense? So some people have said things like the sticks, they could have been used to hold down leaves or something that maybe came loose in the wind. The wind is strong in that area, and I did check the weather reports, and there was not crazy wind. It was enough, though, to blow away leaves. And that area, like I said, there actually is a bit of a wind tunnel there.
I apologize for the wind, but we're out here on the bridge.
So even when Colin's filming his own video, he talks about how much wind there is. Like the way that the setup is, try to put some pictures. There's like a bridge that's a walking trail. The area kind of like, it's like a valley. It kind of creates a wind tunnel. So like, yeah, leaves and sticks could definitely make sense. As well, it could have just been fallen branches. This memo apparently says also that a branch looked cut with a saw. And this is a bit interesting in a moment here. It would seem that there is no proof of these sticks, though. We know for a fact that they weren't collected at the scene, as there was no sticks in the collection. And every news outlet had been doing FOIAs to gain access to the photos taken at the scene, and the FOIAs, they still haven't been approved to this day. Everyone wants to settle the argument about the sticks, and they want to see the photos taken at the time. But from what I found, this memo about the sticks, it's all complete conjecture. I personally don't believe that these sticks were even such an odd or thing that was there. Like, the story seemed to conveniently come out when the defense needed something to explain away their client's guilt. As well, here's a picture of the F on the tree. I don't think it looks anything like an F. It kind of looks like a handprint. They leaned up against the tree, or blood spatter. It's not convincing of anything Nordic. Now, as well, here's how scummy the defense attorneys were. First off, the defense lawyers, they motioned to argue that it was a cult, and that was denied by the judge. Like, the judge was like, no, this is ridiculous evidence. We're not submitting this. So the lawyer leaked all the crime scene photos and this memo out to the press. The judge then removed the defense attorney, citing gross negligence due to them leaking stuff to the press. The attorney's removal was appealed to the Indiana Supreme Court, in which the justices of the Supreme Court, they reinstated the defense attorneys to the case. So every time that the judge of this case tried to keep these attorneys in check, they found a way to weasel out and get what they wanted. Now, let's talk about the evidence against Richard. One of the girls, she turned on her phone to record. I guess they got freaked out, something. So we have audio of Richard's voice ordering them to go down the hill. As well, we have a video clip too from that. And Richard self-reported himself as being at the trail that day at that time.
Until now, the public had only seen this snippet and heard the murderer's voice.
Guys,
But this 43-second clip, played at trial and just released on a website that supports Alan, reveals the growing panic as Abby asks her best friend if the man following them is still there. You can hear nervous whispering as Libby steps off the trail.
See, this is the path that we go down.
Abby is seen rushing past Libby.
There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
You hear heavy breathing and then footsteps before the voice of their killer.
Hi.
Abby and Libby were ordered down that hill, police say, at gunpoint.
So that there's the small video clip that one of the girls was able to grab. And then I guess she maybe put her phone in her pocket or something and she kept recording and the audio was recording. And the guys down the hill is what was recorded in the audio. But the most damning thing about all this eventually that came out is Richard, he admitted to doing it. He admitted it to his wife on the phone at the jail. As well, he admitted it to his cellmate. Then the defense, that kind of came out. Then the defense tried to argue that he did it due to severe depression. Then they submitted a psychologist report and the psychologist testified that Alan told her, in a quote, he had originally planned to essay the victims, but ran away when he saw a van nearby. And he had just cut the girls' throats and yeah. And when he panicked, he just grabbed a bunch of sticks and covered their bodies with the sticks really quickly. So what's funny is that memo, a lot of it was lies. So we catch some lawyers into some deep crap there. We can see that Richard clearly did it, and these stupid conspiracies about cult members just completely took over all the news, and these poor girls and their memories were tainted by complete nonsense and these scummy lawyers, and just the story, it just shouldn't have been so sensationalized. But back to Colin. His video was in poor taste. The case details that emerged quite soon after this video was released, like the case finished very quickly after the video was released. And it cleared up all the conspiracy theory crap as a smokescreen by the defense. So why didn't Colin remove those parts of the video? Or at least upload another video to update us on the case and tell us that all this conspiracy stuff and all this cult stuff was complete BS. Also, Colin's channels, especially over the past year, have a huge problem with a topic matter. He's very obsessed with children who were essayed, especially by cults and conspiracies of rings. But we'll get some more into that later. Okay, but now that you've seen one example of what Colin does, let's take a moment to talk about something important. Reporting versus sensationalism. Let's discuss the difference between what you just saw, which is sensationalism, and reporting of facts. I'm sure by now there's probably some comments below saying, what about the true crime channels? Okay. And I understand the confusion for some people, but the difference is the true crime channels, they report the facts. They don't make up things. They also don't go off on conspiracy theories. And if they do, they're very heavily explained that this is a conspiracy theory and this isn't proved. And, they actually look into the conspiracy theory and they're like, well, all these holes are in it, right? At least the true crime channels that are doing it correctly. They do the research. Colin shows over time and time again that he doesn't really look into these things. Once he hears a wild theory, especially if it fits within his essay weird stuff that he covers, he just holds on to that theory and he doesn't actually look into it. He doesn't look into the people behind it. He doesn't research any of it. He doesn't use critical thinking either, because even the critical thinking, looking at that memo from the Delphi case, that memo was making no sense because a lot of the stuff wasn't there in the crime scene investigation. They didn't collect these things. And then when you saw the picture of the blood on the tree, it didn't look anything like an F. The memo made no sense. Critical thinking would make you question that memo and why that stuff was leaked to the press, right? All of that is stuff that he should have questioned. But again, just to be clear, reporting is reporting of the facts. Doing a documentary where you're doing true crime documentary, whatever it might be, you're reporting facts. You're not adding conjecture to it. You're not adding a huge opinion on it. And if someone does add a bit of an opinion, they make it really clear what their opinion is. And they definitely don't add false facts based on, ITC devices, right? Because obviously they're not paranormal channels. In one of my other videos to do with psychics and stuff, there was somebody who left some comments that I really thought were quite good and explained the difference between reporting and people who are sort of taking advantage of someone with false information. So they talk about people are reporting, they're revealing facts, which is education about something, not using made up nonsense, to take advantage of people and to change a story or whatever it might be. Just like journalists, like this is what journalists do. They also report the facts. It is a job that's actually out there. And when if a journalist went and made up, some falsity based on an ITC device, or if a journalist goes down like a conspiracy theory path, which some of them do, they make a name for themselves and they don't really last long, or they end up on a certain news network that we all kind of know about. And just like further example, people that are telling like the true crime channels and so forth, they are doing journalism, which is legitimate, not making up stuff or sort of being scummy or grifting or, whatever it might be. I'm not saying this all Colin, I'm just kind of talking about the difference between true crime and then all the ghost hunters that are kind of doing this iffy stuff, because there's other people that are doing stuff too. It's the difference between like sort of exploiting a story and exploiting someone's pain and then just like reporting on what everyone already knows, right? It's already like kind of public information. And the biggest thing with people in this position who are doing reporting is they do heavy research. Like that's what sets them apart, and that's what makes their information accurate, is they're doing research and they go very deep with their research. They aren't doing research to try to prove a narrative or prove a point, because they're just telling the facts. They're giving all the research from the facts. And this is how we can all do better when retelling a story, whether as documentary or in paranormal investigation. We should be reporting on facts and do our research. Stick to the facts. Don't try to create new narratives, and don't try to make conspiracy theories or some crazy story based on some devices and phone apps. Okay, now let's review the next case. The Cecil Hotel. The history of the Cecil Hotel, it's huge. It was built in 1924, and it's in California. It's in Los Angeles, and it's got such a long toward history. Lots of stories, lots of people who have passed there, lots of like stories of hauntings, paranormal activity, things like that. So there's a lot. I would recommend, if you want to know the history of it, you can watch any video on YouTube. You can also look at the Wikipedia. It has a ton of stuff as well. And December 13th, 2021, Cecil Hotel reopened as an affordable housing complex operated by the Skid Row Housing Trust. And the video clip I played you at the beginning of this for, about the Cecil Hotel and trying to honor the people best we can. That was video taken of like Skid Row and people in the disenfranchised area as well. So unfortunately, a lot of these people get overlooked, and there's a lot of pain and suffering there. It's not a great place, and it's just really sad that there's people in this position, and it's sad that this was a beautiful hotel too at one point, and it's sad that it's kind of degraded, because it being a housing complex, not much money gets given to these organizations, and it's not in great condition, and it's not safe either. And Colin, he goes and does his investigation through there. Like, as soon as they arrive, there's apparently already a man that follows them with a knife, supposedly. So for the beginning of their investigation, they kind of get introduced to people there. They gain access to that place. Like, it's not safe, and they don't just let paranormal investigators in. Plus, there's no quiet area to actually investigate. Like, it's not a good spot to do any sort of investigation and get any sort of scientific information. So I'm not going to play clips from his episode, because there's a woman that's with them pretty much the whole time, and she doesn't seem like well, and I just feel like I don't know, I just feel like like she's getting kind of exploited for this video. Like she's obviously excited to be in it and stuff, but there's just stuff that ends up happening, and I just feel like she kind of got exploited in this video. And then there's other people as well that's shown in the background too, that I don't think that they got their permission, because there's at one point a man that they show and they're like, we were told after that this guy apparently was following us with a large I think it's a machete or something. I mean, they or large, anyway, something like that knife. They show a picture of him, and there's no way that he signed a release, right? So like, I don't know that they even got proper releases to show anybody's faces or bodies or anything like that. I just don't really, yeah. So because of the situation, I'm not going to show clips, but I took some stills of certain scenes that I thought were appropriate enough to show. So they're wandering around the building a bit, then there's just like pretty chaotic, honestly. And then eventually they make it up to a certain floor, the one that Elisa Lam. So a big part of the Cecil Hotel, one of the big stories often is people talk about Elisa Lam, and she's that student from Canada who ended up in the water tank on the roof, and her whole like case, like the whole story is very odd, and it's just really odd, and a lot of people think it's paranormal. A lot of people think that she was talking to a ghost and a ghost got her in a water tank or some crap, but it was ruled an accident officially, and she was suffering from some mental illnesses as well, and I think they said that she went off her medication, so something could have happened with that. I think that's what they're just assuming. I wouldn't be surprised if like an actual person was involved that hurt her or something, or brought her up there, or, you know, or messing with her in her mental state that she was in. But it being a ghost, I really don't believe it was a ghost. It's like the silliest answer. So anyways, they end up at the elevators that Elisa Lam was seen acting suspiciously in. They talk about her there for a few minutes. Again, like, I think any paranormal channel that's covering her as a paranormal death, it just wasn't paranormal. And I just think it's kind of exploitative to even do that to her as well. Like, I don't agree with putting her under paranormal. And then they talk about like security was suspicious of them the whole time that they were in the building. They think that they had ulterior motives. Like, the building already is pretty unsafe, and there's a lot of stuff like security won't go up to certain floors because of how dangerous they are, because of the other people are in there. So like, they're already worried that these people here filming are taking advantage of these people, or they're going to do something bad to them. Like, so security's trying their best to protect the people there. And even like with what they have, like they still struggle to protect the residents. Like, it's a tough neighborhood, and it's a tough building, you know? And then at this point, the woman that's been following them the whole time, which like mental illness runs my family too. And like, I had some of my family who is schizophrenic and stuff. And just, I've had some friends who are bipolar, and just something like this woman just doesn't really seem well. And with some of the stuff that I'm going to show you that she says, I just wouldn't have included any footage of her in my video, or not posted this or something, you know, like, it just, the only reason that they kept her in is because she's the only interesting thing that happened there. But everything she says is like clearly not true. So it's like, I don't know, I think it's very exploitative to have left her in the video, and to have let her go off on these tangents, and that's out there on the internet forever. And like, who knows, maybe if one day like she gets help or something, or starts healing or whatever it might be, and then she looks back on this and like, her image is out there, like her face and everything. I just don't agree with it. So they end up in her room, and then she goes on to start telling them a bunch of crazy stories. But one of them is, she says that the building's alive. She says all the skin cells that have dropped off of people in the shower over the last 100 years, she says that they've gone into the drains and they've rehydrated and kind of like combined and repaired themselves. And altogether, they've made one big skin cell. And she's saying that pretty much like the whole building is this like flesh that's been created of all the people that have ever been there. She says things like, it looks like human flesh, so it's terrifying, but I think the building actually has a pulse. Obviously, the stuff she's saying is like not, I don't know. I wouldn't have left her in that video. It's just, I think that they shouldn't have left her testimony and her stuff in the video. And then they go on to text over the screen saying, what you guys don't see are the faces of the residents who keep popping their heads out of the rooms and staring at us. They at least had the foresight to edit out all of the multiple residents whose heads popped out. But they did leave some people in that I really don't think that they got sign off by all of them. And all these faces apparently too were giving them really angry looks. Like the people that lived there were upset that they were there and upset that they were like filming about paranormal stuff in their building. Like the people didn't even want you there. They were not happy about this. And as well, like I said, the security guard doesn't go up to the upper floors without another security guard with them. Without another security guard with them because of how dangerous it is. And they told them to make sure that they brought like a weapon or, a knife or something to defend themselves. And then they're like, but we didn't, trying to act all whatever tough guy or something. As well, they put on the screen, there were a lot of stains covering most of the walls, and they show one of the stains. I'm not going to show it. They show one of them on the wall, and it looks a lot like blood. And it's just like, again, it's exploitative. Like, yeah, this was posted a while ago, but like a month ago, weren't we upset with Ouija Brothers about showing this kind of stuff? Like, I realize like it's a different story because that person, they don't know anything about whose blood it was and is the person still alive or like whatever. But this was on the upper floors that are apparently really dangerous. And the way the blood stain looked, like it looked pretty bad. So like, I don't even know why I put it on video camera. I just don't put it on camera. It's so bad. And like they put on the screen, a lot of the stains appear to be blood. And then the woman who's been with them this whole time, that I don't think is very well. And then she goes on to explain to them when they're on the top floor trying to get some evidence. She then says that she's the daughter of Ted Bundy, and she brings up a picture of her apparent brother beside Ted Bundy, and she's like, look how they look alike. I think that they look very much like plain looking, both of them. Like Ted Bundy was kind of fit in with multiple looks. So like, I don't know, I didn't really see the resemblance, but all she did was kind of make the pictures, put them together, right? And then Colin was entertaining this whole story, and he's like, no way, really? You're really like, did he believe her? Like, I don't know. I don't know how he would have believed her on that. I do have a screenshot of the pictures. I might put it on the screen, but maybe cover his eyes or something. Because again, her brother didn't agree to be in this YouTube video. So, and just a bit of research you can do. Ted Bundy had a daughter, Rose Bundy. This woman is not Rose Bundy. The woman in the video that's following them around, she says that her name is Christine. I won't say the rest of it. Like, she gives her full name too, and he didn't really bleep that out. I don't know. I really don't think that he should have kept her name in, let alone what she was saying and her image and the picture of her brother and stuff. If that is a brother, like... And then they were asked to leave. They got a text, asked to leave, and they were saying apparently like Joe, I think the security guard or something, texted them saying that that guy with the knife was headed up the stairs or something looking for them, something along those lines. So they ended up leaving. And then that is sort of the end of the video there. So with the Cecil, I just feel like the Cecil Hotel, it seemed really exploitative the way that they did their video. I don't really agree with leaving those people's faces, likenesses in there, leaving her stories in there, that woman's story, her full name, picture of her brother. Like, there's no way that they got her brother to sign off on being in that video as well. Like, you know what I mean? If they're going to throw all these likenesses in and these stories and stuff, I just feel like you should get them to sign off on it. But even with that woman said that she's never left the Cecil since she moved in like 20 years ago or something like that, which makes me also wonder if maybe she's also got agoraphobia or something along those lines. Like, she was able to stand outside, but I don't know. I the way that she worded it, it seemed like maybe she's dealing with like agoraphobia as well. So that's a whole other thing. Anyways, I just thought that the whole video is very exploitative. You can go watch it for yourself as well. The only like false narratives I would say is them leaving the story of that woman, because she also said that the uncle of Ramirez works there at the building. They left that in. I'm sure they didn't fact check that, and it's probably not true. And then they said something about, she was also saying that her father, Ted Bundy, was living in the basement, and that Ramirez was living in the basement too. Like, there's just some stuff that leaving it in there and not fact checking it, like, it's the same as also claiming false information from your devices. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't It's very inappropriate. The whole thing was very inappropriate. And, if I don't know why no one called him out on it at the time. I don't know. Maybe people also don't like watch Colin's videos and stuff in the debunking community, but people were like quick to call it the Ouija brothers. But like this stuff has not been getting called out, and it's really bad. Like first person I seen to call out Paranormal Files is Boo Productions, and they're the reasons why I kind of started down this rabbit hole with calling, because I was like, oh, whoa, this is like some of the stuff is really bad. So anyway, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Go watch the video and then tell me what you think, All right, now I have another example of a case where Colin just again loves to go wild with crazy theories. Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who murdered 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969. The case has been described as arguably the most famous unsolved murder case in American history. All right, so that's from Wikipedia. When I read the little case blurb, I'm just reading it from Wikipedia. So first off, take a look at Colin's title that he has on there. And he puts in there that they have new evidence, right? So yeah, of course. First off, he starts off with all the standard theories. We have the Joseph Newton Chandler III theory.
Joseph. As it turns out, the name Joseph had some relevancy. There are people online who believe that the Zodiac could have been a man named Joseph Newton Chandler III. Now, there are photos of this Joseph guy that look very strikingly similar to how the Zodiac Killer was described by victims who survived. It was known that he lived in and spent time in California. If you remember in that letter when the Zodiac talks about engineering a bomb, Joseph Chandler was an electrical engineer and had the capability to do something like that.
Then their ITC devices point them to the Larry Kane theory.
Realtor. So the Zodiac was a realtor in California? Larry.
As if this couldn't continue to get any more strange, the name Larry is incredibly relevant. So another suspect of the Zodiac murders was a man named Lawrence Kane. Now, Larry Kane, which is the name that he went by, was actually born as Lawrence Klein on April 29, 1924 in Brooklyn, New York. He had a lengthy criminal rap sheet dating back to the 1940s. And Pam Huckabee, the sister of Darlene Ferrin, one of the Zodiac victims, actually claims that Larry Kane followed Darlene in the months before her murder.
So he pretty much uses the ITC devices to fit all the different theories, right? And again, we don't know with editing. We don't know if he can add stuff to some of these devices, which a lot of them can, and they just say they can't. But we don't know how long they sat there going through names, waiting for stuff to fit too. Like editing and everything, it plays a role. But then he goes on the new evidence. He goes on to cover the TikTok guy, Jeremy Foy, who says his grandfather, Richard Hoffman, is the Zodiac Killer.
Details during our interview, but I have a crazy feeling about this, not only because our evidence linked up, but yeah, let's just cut to that interview now. Prepare to have your mind blown.
My name is Jeremy Foy. I spent 5 years in law enforcement and 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, and I think my grandfather is the Zodiac Killer. The day I found out about it, I was actually at a police memorial at my local town.
And even starts this thing by saying that what their devices found links up to this story working, but their devices found multiple names of all multiple suspects. So again, they're just making it fit their narrative. All right. So this guy says, I think my granddad was a Zodiac Killer. His eerie interview remarks about a victim's. Okay. Yeah. Former cop has left the internet stunned. He's not a former cop, he's former MP, military police. He did a 4-part TikTok series. I did watch the whole series, by the way, if you want to go watch it. But he explains that, the suspicious behavior of his grandfather, and then he tries to link a few things to it as well. So he explains that his grandfather worked as a police officer in California, where the Zodiac murders took place. When comparing physical appearances, he says his grandfather shared similarities to the illustrations. There's so many people that they say this about, though. He goes on to describe that, in this 2008 documentary, which I'll show you a clip of it in a second, it actually has an interview with his grandfather. And one of the survivors talks about a man came up to them, like the man who attacked them came up to them. And essentially the woman that he was with was like, oh, no, not him or something like that. And then he said, no, she didn't say his name. She didn't say his name. And then he said, Richard, as at one point in the documentary. Let me find the clip for you and I'll play it for you. Okay, this is the 2007 documentary. This is the Zodiac speaking.
He said his car pulled up and he asked Darlene, do you know who that is? And she said something like, never mind.
She told him he was a friend of hers and not to worry about it. He was just jealous. That's all she said about it. He was just jealous. She never mentioned his name, but she said something about Richard. His name was Richard. I heard her name Richard. And I think that was his name. She referred to him as Richard, the Zodiac killer, the guy. And she said he really had a mean temper and that if he ever found out, he would kill her. He would kill her. As she mentioned, she said those words, he would kill me if he ever knew I was talking to you about that.
Okay, so this guy in the black shirt here, he's the survivor of this attack that happened. The woman that he was with didn't survive it, but, it was the Zodiac killer who did it, right? So there's a bit of talk about what he means by Richard, because he says here that she never gave his name, but he thought it was Richard. And there's something I found about another Richard that also exists, which we'll go over in a second here. So he says, he alleges that his grandfather sent other responding officers away while he was tending to the scene of, the Zodiac thing that happened to, he links a lot of stuff. And I mean, it sounds pretty good when you're watching him explain it. It's, just like all of the Zodiac theories, they all sound pretty good, right? Because you can fit a lot of people. There's a lot of different theories out there, right? He also claimed that his grandfather knew Darlene and she was rumored to be in a relationship with multiple police officers. She was like a, police officer bunny. And that he attended a house painting party, which we'll also touch on as well. In the documentary, his grandfather did acknowledge the rumors that were swirling around him and Darlene as well. He said that while he knew of her, he had never laid eyes on her prior to finding her body. And Darlene's sisters remember at this painting party, there was a mysterious, well-dressed man that caused Darlene significant fear who showed up at this party. And apparently his grandfather was invited to the party or something. He found an invitation or something like that. As well, he also links his grandfather's writing, but there's other people whose writing matches the Zodiac and spelling matches the Zodiac too. And he links his grandfather's, but there's other suspects who also match exactly the writing and spelling mistakes as well. There's just so many that match it. It's iffy. It's iffy. All right. So let's get into why many people think that Jeremy Foy is likely not telling the truth. Obviously, I'm not hitting every detail of Jeremy Foy's story about his grandfather because it's 4-part series. It's quite long. I did watch it when it first showed up on TikTok. If it's still out there, I recommend go checking it out. Otherwise, I'm sure someone re-uploaded it somewhere. So a lot of these theories I saw on different forums, Reddit, things like that, internet sleuths, and just people using their knowledge of the case and critical thinking as to why Jeremy might be lying. First off is the obvious one. He has been offered a documentary deal, a TV series. So yeah, it's hard to trust someone whose first move is making TikTok videos, a whole series about it, something so seriously. And the way that it came across, I don't know. A lot of people think that he kind of came across he was looking for fame and money. And also why go public with all this stuff before law enforcement has had a chance to evaluate all the evidence that he's providing? And this can mess up an investigation because for evidence, there's evidence handling. And for it to even be admissible in court, law enforcement needs to establish proper chain of custody. I think he shows some stuff that, because his grandfather passed, and he shows some papers, the writing and things like that. Give that to the police, if you think that it's actual evidence, right? This whole thing can undermine all the credibility in any legal proceedings as well. And just in general, there's a lot of red flags around this guy who's talking about his grandfather. It suggests that this is probably one of the many stories that have been made up over the years, which happens with a lot of serial killer cases that are unsolved. So let's talk about the problems with his grandfather Hoffman being a suspect, because there are issues and inconsistencies with the story that doesn't make sense. So one of the points, again, the story is confusing and long, and I don't want to get into all of it, but I'm just going to list off some of the counterpoints to him that Jeremy talks about. And I know some of this stuff might be a little confusing if you're not familiar with the Zodiac case. So number one, apparently the Zodiac killer placed a call to the police station when one of the incidents happened, but Hoffman, he was actually, it was placed from a payphone, and they knew like which payphone it was. But Hoffman at the time, he was at the Kaiser Hospital when this happened, and the Kaiser Hospital was 2 miles away. And like, this is when Zodiac called the police station, took credit for the crimes that he was doing, right? And the other point that people have to this too is they called the police station that Hoffman worked at. And like, there was no software or anything else to change your voice back then. And the voice sounded, he didn't put on an accent. He didn't really change it. Like, there's recording of it. And these people work together. If it was Hoffman, they would have recognized his voice right away, which is like just a general critical thinking point to look at as well with this whole story. And as well, okay, so some people are like, well, maybe Hoffman drove to that payphone to make the call. He wasn't being watched by staff all the time. But the other officers on the scene, they said that they saw Hoffman go into the ambulance with the victims. Hoffman was the first on scene on that particular instance where we saw the guy who survived. He gave the feed, witness testimony in that thing, right? So this is like one of the big things that Jeremy is holding on to, is that his grandfather was there, and that's suspicious and all that. But he was there because like Zodiac killer was already after people, and they were doing rounds and trying to, keep an eye out for people and keep an eye on what was going on. So point is, he didn't have a vehicle. He actually went in the ambulance, and he was there with the victims. Like, he was trying to see if any of them would survive so that they could get witness statements, So, like I said, he didn't have a car. He couldn't sneak away from the hospital to make a phone call and then come back 2 miles away to sneak away to make this phone call. He'd have to ask for a ride from somebody, and then there'd be a witness like, hey, yeah, I drove him in the ambulance to a random payphone and drove him back to the hospital. Like, it doesn't make sense. There would be a witness to that. As well, Jeremy talks about, so in 1966, a victim, Sherry Jo Bates, she was murdered, and there was a poem that showed up like under a desk or something like that. And it was signed, it was to do with her, and then it was signed R.H. And that was written in Riverside, California at the time. But at the time, Hoffman was living in Nebraska. So like, it doesn't make sense, just the locations. Because Jeremy tries to put together that his grandfather knew Sherry or something, and this was like a love poem to her. But again, doesn't make sense. Okay, just to circle back to that Richard statement that the fellow made in the documentary there. Apparently, at the time of that woman's murder, she was the one that was dating a bunch of cops as well. Apparently, she was saying a guy named Richard, and it was Richard Lee Moncure. And some people believe that that's who he was talking about in the documentary, not about cop Richard, but about this other Richard. As well, there's a witness who said that Hoffman was on the guest list for that painting party, but he never actually attended. So being on a guest list, it doesn't mean that you were at the party. It's like two different things, obviously. And the man at the party was said to have been dressed really nicely and fancy, and like his grandfather, he was like, a working man, a police officer, and like he had a family and stuff too. It didn't really make sense that he'd be at this party. And it was like years later that they figured out that she was dating multiple cops, and that's probably why he was invited to the painting party. Like, she knew them, but a lot of people thought she was just dating one of the cops, but it came out that she was dating multiple cops. So, but also Jeremy, like, he tries to hang on to that too, saying, oh, well, maybe she was dating my grandfather as well. So, and the one who was saying that she dated 3 police officers was Mullinax, who's one of the original detectives on the Zodiac case as well. So he knew about the 3 cops. Okay, lastly, and this is the smoking gun. They have a DNA profile and a partial fingerprint. So if this guy thinks his grandfather was the Zodiac killer, why not just give a DNA sample and then they can take a look at and see if maybe there's familial match, and then they can just rule it out, right? He hasn't said that he's given one. He hasn't even said that he's been to the police to give this evidence or statement or anything like that either. So not just the DNA, but since his grandfather was a police officer, he would have fingerprints on file. And since he was a suspect, they would have compared his fingerprints to the partial print that they have as well. It all seems like he's just trying to make money off of it, to be honest. Apparently his whole family has stopped talking to him as well since doing this. So I don't know. I think it's pretty telling. All right. So all of this information, it could have been researched by Colin, and Colin could have easily done the research, found this information. And most of this is critical thinking done by online sleuths who pieced together details of the case and compared it to Foy's story. A lot of these are people who are like really obsessed with this case and they know it in and out. There's people out there like that, right? So this is further proof that Colin doesn't even seem to fact check anything. And he always wants to side with the most sensational story or story that'll give him the most attention. Right now, Jeremy Foy is hot, because he went and released that TikTok and he's really popular. So he's getting clicks and views, Okay, let's get into one more case and then we'll discuss his conspiracy theory issues. The Moors Murders. The Moors Murders were a series of killings committed by Ian Brady and Myra Hindley in and around Manchester, England between July 1963 and October 1965. They essayed and took the lives of 5 children. The pair were charged initially for 2 of the murders, and then Brady ended up confessing eventually. Then he confessed to all the rest of them. Then after that, Myra stopped claiming her innocence, and then the police took the pair of them to the graves to find all the graves, and they found all of the children except for one of them. They ended up serving life sentences and were never released. That's just a quick summary of the case. There's obviously more, and you can take a look online. So this one, we're going to do a really brief review on this one, as I think by now you kind of get the idea of how Colin does his research and how he handles his cases. To start, first they get the word 60 and they decide to turn it into 6, and they decide to say that it's a missed victim that the police didn't know about. So they're like totally just adding completely incorrect misinformation, like just incorrect facts and complete misinformation to this. It's insane.
60.
The 60s.
Are you saying that they missed the body?
Maybe you never knew the boy's...
Travail.
Maybe you never heard the boy's name, but do you remember all of those children being brought out here?
I'm going to leave in some other words that they find here. The thing I want you to really notice is how many words they kind of ignore, but also, and I think I mentioned this again later, they use like 4 devices that spit out words. So they're bound to get a huge amount of words and have something fit with their narrative at some point. Every investigation.
6 again. 6 again. It keeps saying 6. Crud. Turbofan crud work. Are you saying that young boy's body might be buried near a turbofan, like one of those big
wind turbines?
Yeah, one of those big white wind turbines that are around here? Specifically. And why do you keep saying Dennis? Keep saying 6. Do you keep saying 6 because there was another victim that was never found?
Mm-mm.
It also said 13th and menacing.
Wasn't he about 13 years old?
Reese.
Okay, so they're quick to like jump on an idea of a 6th victim that isn't known about, because there was apparently a theory of one, but it was like disproven. And then the thing goes on to say 2 names that aren't, part of that theory. And then they kind of ignore the names. They ignore Alberta. Like they ignore multiple other things that the ITC device is saying to them. They didn't do as much editing on all the words coming through, but you can kind of see how many words come through, and then they just pull out the ones that fit a narrative that kind of matches something. So it's just, this is the MO that they seem to work under. And I'm just going to play a little clip how they talk about how during their investigation found new possibilities of something. It's just an example as well of how like they take their information and say that it provides like a new part of the story, which
Underwater.
So, obviously, one of the biggest unsolved mysteries when dealing with the Moors murderers case is the final resting place of Keith Bennett. However, during our investigation, a new possibility arose. Could his body have possibly been placed into the water nearby? I mean, that theory isn't impossible. This large body of water is located right next to where the children's bodies were found, and we received a lot of evidence talking about being underwater that evening.
Any sort of landmark or area? I know you said the wind turbine, but is there anything else? Aqueduct. There's a reservoir.
Yeah.
Literally right there.
Underwater.
So is that why Keith Bennett's body has never been found? Have people been looking in all the wrong places? Did Ian and Myra switch up where they disposed of the victim's body for this one dump? I don't know.
And like, they're not the only paranormal investigators that do stuff like this. You know, find some evidence from a psychic or something. It happened a lot, you know, back in the day too with psychics. But the other thing I want to point out too with them is they're using like 3 ITC devices. So it's no wonder that they eventually get a word that matches one of their theories. Like, it's so silly. And one of the devices is that phone app that you can mess with. So anyhow, that's just an example of how they're changing the story. I mean, this is just one part of the issue. They have multiple issues, but it's part of the issue in general with the ghost hunting community. So again, this just adds to false information in a case and trying to confirm theories that have been, you know, unproven, or theories that have been proven false, and trying to say that no, they're actually true or something because the ITC device says it. And like I said, there was the words like Calgary in your sleep, wartime. So you kind of get the idea of them, you know, ignoring other stuff that's popping up, right? And only paying attention to the stuff that fits theories that they have. So then they follow the ITC devices over to Ramshaw Rocks because there's a theory based on pictures that these murderers took over there. And then they try to do like spirit box and stuff. And honestly, it's just audio pareidolia. I don't hear what he thinks he's hearing. And I just think it's BS. They don't really find anything else. And that kind of ends the episode. I'm just going to throw this little thing in the middle here. It's my little side tangent on some motives, some things that I've noticed about Colin, like motives I believe, but some things I've noticed about Colin. And I'm just going to add it in here because it links to some footage I have from the Moors murder case, and we'll just cover this off before we head down into the conspiracy files stuff, which we're going to transition into after this. Another thing too that, you know, I'll point to somewhere here. Colin, he has an IMDb, and he also has done like a music career when he was young. He's making films and stuff. Like, he kind of seems like he's trying to get some sort of fame and like a break into the industry. And you can kind of see like the acting that he does during his Estes methods is like, it's interesting.
You've been naughty. Like a woman's voice.
Is this Myra?
She used to come here. She was Beelzebub.
Was Myra the real evil person in this story?
No.
So was Ian baby crying?
Go on, get out.
Do you not like that they found all the bodies here?
They haven't.
There is one more that you never told them.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I watched them cut it.
You watched them cut the up?
Out here with an X-Acto knife.
So I want to show you guys, you know, Colin, he's got an IMDb. Like I've mentioned in other videos, you have to go out of your way to set up your IMDb. Like, you have to pay for it and you have to set up your own profile and everything, right? He is linked to other TV shows as well, doing camera department, editorial department. I think that he honestly is trying to break into the industry. Like, he's got all this stuff here, his nickname, his trademark style, like... It's just, if you're trying to break into the industry, if you're trying to become a famous actor or whatever, just say it. Like, he does kind of plays down the IMDb, and it's always the same pattern. It's these people that are overdoing it, being sensational or faking stuff, and then they have an IMDb and they're trying to get on TV shows and they're trying to break into the industry. It's always the same story. And as well, he's got a whole music area too. He made this album when he was younger. Like, he's clearly been chasing fame for a long time. Like, honestly, this was the path that he wanted to take. So just to be completely transparent about it, and then we see the acting that he does in the Estes, like, he's a performer. He's a performer. Okay, he's a performer and he's a filmmaker. And that's the important thing to hang on to here. And he very much sensationalizes a lot of the stuff. I forgot to mention too, just recently, he was trying to raise like $100,000 or something like that so that people could pay or that people could like whatever, fund his trip so that he could go track down a children essay ring or whatever from like 80s or something like that. That's just like defunct. And he wanted to go track this down with some investigative reporter and essentially trying to get his audience to fund this trip that was going to take him all over the place. And it's just like, I don't know, man, he's got like a really bad obsession with this stuff and he's got to let it up. Like, it's getting too much. Like, at some point this shit's going to come bite him in the ass. And honestly, he needs to be held accountable too for what he's doing as well. And now we're going to talk about a conspiracy investigation that he did on his paranormal channel. It'll lead us over to the conspiracy files stuff so you can understand how everything ends up linked in the end. The Elm House Conspiracy. The Elm House is a conspiracy that was fueled by Carl Beach. This occurred during the Satanic Panic era, and Carl came forward saying that all this stuff was happening at this Elm House, and all these like people were involved. There was like politicians. It's over in Europe and in England, and there was like politicians involved and all this stuff. And the police just took his statement and didn't really question it. And then they started investigating all these people and essentially like ruining their lives because it's Satanic Panic. So they're being accused of, child essay and stuff. So it ended up being just a hoax. Like, even if you go on Wikipedia, it's the Elm Guest House hoax. In the end, they investigated it. It was all not real. And Carl, actually, they found was guilty himself of CSA. And so they ended up charging him with that. And they also ended up charging him with what's called perverting the course of justice. And that was just like making false claims and like ruining these people's lives. And he actually was sent to jail for 18 years. There was another charge, I think, there as well. So it was like 3 different charges. And because of what Carl Beach did, like, this negatively impacted future cases of people coming forward. Like, the Satanic Panic, like, that is part of the problem with it too, is that they weren't taking like real cases seriously, and then it impacted future cases that were reported, and just it was a mess. And it's the same, like, you have conspiracy theorists or ghost hunters or psychics who then go in and like make false claims too. There is fallout to this stuff. It's not good to be doing this. Like, it messes with people's lives, it messes with future reports. It's just, it's so stupid that people can't see the damage that this stuff causes. Okay, so in Colin's video, going to be really quick, just summary, because I'm just using this as an example to lead into his conspiracy theory stuff. So they spent probably thousands to fly over to England, and this is one of the locations that they went to. They went to a couple different ones, but they pretty much sat in a car outside of the house and used ITC devices. And they just took some video shots of them outside the house. Like, they didn't investigate the house. Like, the whole thing is a hoax anyways too, and they're just further perpetuating it by trying to treat it like it was real. Eventually, one of the women, I don't know if she was part of the house or just one of the nearby houses, but she saw them and what they were doing, and she asked what they were doing. They told her like, oh, we're filming, whatever, YouTube. And then she ended up inviting them in the house to do like a spirit box session, and it's very uneventful. Nothing really happened. All that really happened out of it is he spent like the first half of the episode as usual doing like a true crime documentary thing, just, trying to further perpetuate that this is a real story by giving it any sort of airtime at all. And these conspiracy theories just shouldn't get airtime because they're not real. Like, they've been proven as hoaxes. And then they pretty much just do that. It's really uneventful. Conspiracy files. I already recorded a bunch of the footage for this, and I just was kind of going through the channel because like there's a lot to cover for this, so I kind of record some on a different date. You might not see me on video, but you might see like a still screen or something. I might just put like a still up on the screen just to further cover fair use. I'm just letting you know in case you're wondering why I'm not on the screen or why things might look different. But all right, let's get into the Conspiracy Files channel. I decided to work on this conspiracy part on a different day because there's a lot of like Googling and going back and forth through things. So I just wanted to kind of concentrate on this on one day. So what we're looking at here is the Conspiracy Files channel, which is also run by Colin. And personally, I think there's a lot of conspiracy files or conspiracy videos on here that I think are just detrimental to people. Like, it's just spreading misinformation, a lot of it. And we'll just take a look at them as well. I will be blurring out some stuff because he, over and over and over again, he keeps covering CSA. I don't know why he's covering it so much, but he covers it a lot. And I just don't want like anything on my YouTube to like whatever link to it. So I'll blur some stuff out. Okay, so if we take a look at just some of the videos here, we have different things like Brandon Swanson. There's this Joy Junction, things about certain types of films, the party house. We'll look at a few of these things. He tends to cover really shock value things, and they tend to be around a lot of things involving children. He's got the moon landing, the world's greatest hoax, so he's furthering that. Like, he doesn't disprove conspiracy theories in these videos. He proves that they are real. It's just a further stain on the misinformation train that's out there. It's just this is like even worse than just faking ghost videos, because this stuff goes out further than just the paranormal community. So when I turned on the moon landing episode, Colin went into a spiel about why he covers these topics, why his channel's named all this, and a bunch of other stuff. So I'll play it for y'all, and then I have some comments.
This channel is called The Conspiracy Files, right? And I've had a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't have called it The Conspiracy Files because it's all true. It's not a conspiracy.
God damn it. No, we're going to take breaks, and I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to comment as we go along. Did he just say that all conspiracy files are true? Like, dude, come on, get a grip.
And that's the whole point of what I'm doing. It's taking back the word, because conspiracy theory, that whole, word and term generated after the assassination of JFK.
I'm just going to throw this Google here for y'all to look at. The true origin of conspiracy, the word, and conspiracy theory, the term. It's official. Colin doesn't actually do research. Like, he just finds a cool story and tells it and says that he does research.
By intelligence officers in the United States to make people seem, less legitimate when they brought up the JFK assassination. By the way, if you want me to release that episode, please tell me, because I've got a 65-page script ready to go. It's like the deepest dive into the JFK assassination you could possibly wish for. But yeah.
The JFK files were recently released, and everyone was saying it was a letdown. There was nothing proving any conspiracy theory in them. The only thing that was interesting in them was the covert, information about how the CIA was doing covert work and the spies in Cuba and things like that. Literally had nothing to do with the JFK assassination. It was just really information on how they were handling Cold War techniques and whatnot back in the day. That's the only really interesting thing out of it. And it wasn't anything earth-shattering. There's no second gunman, like nothing. So, like, calm down, people.
I'm hoping to show people that these things that we talk about here are labeled conspiracies, and they are conspiracies. It just takes two or more people coming together for, with a dark goal in mind to create a conspiracy. But these things are legit, especially with and people have come at me and said, why do you talk about so much, and why do you try to expose these people? You must be one yourself. I just got another comment today, some jackass saying this guy probably just makes these videos so that he can research this sick stuff. No, I care about informing people, educating people.
I don't know about this one, Colin. I think that you do it for the shock value, for the clicks.
And I really want to raise awareness with this channel. My biggest passion nowadays is exposing these criminals that have been allowed to roam free and have escaped prosecution, criminals that have committed crimes against children. So that's been a main focus of my work here on the channel, and illustrating to you how all of these webs are connected to each other.
Also, just to add, him dragging people's names to the muds that were brought up during the Satanic Panic, and if they've been cleared of all charges and haven't been found guilty of anything, you're just perpetuating the lies that were going on during the Satanic Panic. You're not helping anyone. You know what? Let's take a look. I'm sorry that we're getting sidetracked here, but let's take a look at one of Colin's recent videos just a couple days ago. Him complaining about getting demonetized and age restricted all the time, and he doesn't know why. Like, seriously, man, look at the topics you cover.
So I think I had a bit of a mental breakdown this morning when I woke up, checked my YouTube, and saw that YouTube had once again not only demonetized my entire video, but had age restricted it as well. Which means basically it's a kill shot for the video. You're never going to get recommended. People can't share the video. It's absolutely insane. And this time what they decided to target me for was the inclusion of an AI generated photograph of a man floating above the bridge that we were investigating, which is just absurd. And I already appealed it and they denied the appeal. And
the reason that your video was age restricted is because you were covering people who were self-unaliving. As you can see, like, I'm not going to glorify the word. I'm not going to say the word because I realize that YouTube doesn't like it when we say that word. On top of that, and they look at all of your channels. And, you know, they would have looked at your other content. Your other content's constantly being demonetized or age restricted as well because of the topic matter, which means that you're actually on like a to watch list for advertiser friendliness. Your advertiser friendliness is like, it's down in the dumps. And that's why else you're not going to get great support and response from YouTube when you try to appeal stuff, because you're covering topic matter that is not advertiser friendly, and you're not trying to reword things properly, or, you know, avoid talking about things over and over and over and over again. Like, you know, they don't want you to keep putting it center focus.
This is my full-time job, so I can't afford to have videos get fully demonetized week after week. This has been incredibly stressful, y'all, going down these paths. And with all these changing rules on YouTube, it's just absolutely absurd that they won't let you talk about real history.
Colin, they are not stopping you from talking about it. They are not silencing you. What they're telling you is advertisers don't like this topic matter, so we're just not going to run ads on your video. And this topic matter isn't suitable for certain ages, so we're also going to age restrict your video. That is what they're saying. They're not silencing you. They're just not going to pay you because advertisers don't want their ads next to this topic matter.
Look, here's an example of the email that I get when I get demonetized. Do you need help? People have reached out to us saying that you are expressing some whatever disturbing viewpoints online. Here's some resources. We can help you. They actually send you this message, making it sound like you or me, I'm talking about, you know, doing something to myself.
You know, I'd have to take a look in it to see, do you get these emails just automatically, or do you get them when someone actually reports your stuff? Because your stuff in the last year has gotten more and more extreme. So there's a chance that there are viewers who care about you, or, you know, other creators who used to care about you more or something, and they're concerned, and maybe they're the ones that are reporting this to YouTube every time that you post a video like this. Maybe they are worried for you because the stuff that you're covering is getting more and more extreme and out there.
Week after week, I keep getting demonetized, and I've tried censoring, I've tried cutting things, and then I get struck for these absolutely ridiculous things.
I honestly see a lot of stuff that needs censoring, so I don't know what else you're censoring, but you're not doing the proper cutting and censoring that you should be. I mean, some of the topic matter alone just should be a no.
So I'm re-releasing the video with new edits made so that it will not be censored, but just know that YouTube is the one covering up this history, and they don't want people talking about stuff like this.
Again, they never removed your video. They didn't make it private. They didn't remove it from the platform. They're not censoring you.
You know, a free $100 for commenting. Basically, all you have to do to enter this contest is comment as many times as you can on the re-upload of this video and like the video. And even if you've already watched the video already, please watch it all the way through once again, even if you just let your computer sit there and play the video all the way, just so that YouTube sees that people are actually watching this and doesn't want to harass me or target me again.
Okay, so I mean, I cut some of that out. He's doing a contest where he's giving away gift cards if you comment on the video because he's trying to push the analytics back up. It's fine, whatever, do a contest. My comments on this are, you say that you want to make sure that YouTube sees that people are watching this so they don't come and harass you again. And I did cut it out, sorry. His video originally had 70,000 views. So clearly people are watching it. Like that is not the reason. Like, you're asking for people to comment and like and all that to push it back into the algorithm. Just say that. I just find it odd that you're lying to your audience about this. Yeah, it's a small lie, but if you're willing to lie about this, then what else do you lie about? And also saying that YouTube is coming to harass you and attack you. Dude, they pay you. We are freelancers, yes, but are you really going to talk shit like that about the people who pay you? Like, they're not harassing you. They're not attacking you. Your content is not appropriate for advertisers. And due to the nature of the content, they send that stuff out because if there's ever someone actually in trouble, they want to make sure that their asses are covered for liability. Okay. That is why they send out those emails. On top of, who knows, someone may have actually reported it to YouTube saying that they're concerned about your behavior, because that is totally possible too.
It really sucks having this stuff happen week after week when I work so hard for these videos. Like, I'm up late almost every single night. I work every day of the week. These edits are very complex too. So I'll have days when I get up at, 7:30, I'm working by 8 and I don't go to bed until about 2. Or I should say I don't quit working until about 2 because I'm the only editor here. So
yeah, I know what it's like. I put in that much work and I feel for you there, Colin. And you do good editing work. And if this was a TV show, it would be very well done and they would appreciate it and it'd be fine for the content matter because the TV network will have sorted out which advertisers want to show up on this particular show that covers this topic matter. But it's YouTube, so it's general advertising. So you need to be more general and family friendly in your content.
It's hard. It's a really stressful thing to constantly have to deal with when all I'm trying to do is talk about history. But there's no distinction when it comes to YouTube's draconian laws and guidelines. There's zero distinction. They just see an AI generated image of a man floating above a bridge and claim that it's some graphic depiction.
All right. So first off, you're really trying to mobilize your audience to go after YouTube with your terminology here. You should probably look up the YouTuber Mama Max and everything he went through and his realization about advertiser friendliness and then his downfall. I think that you are on that path of like Mama Max with some of the stuff that you do. And YouTube, draconian means their laws or their application are excessively harsh and severe. In a way, yes, but it's because you're trying to fit a general advertiser bucket. And I used to work in marketing and advertising, and I used to do these online ads. Advertisers don't get to choose which type of videos and really which topics their ads show up on. Coca-Cola or Disney does not want to put an ad on your videos. And I understand that you're saying it's just an AI generated thing. It's not just that. They were looking at the picture along with the topic matter, and you were covering a story about some stuff that happened. So like, if you don't word it right, and you definitely don't want to visualize anything on the screen for stuff like this either, like that's a whole other thing too, especially this topic and especially topics around children. They really don't like that stuff. And it's understandable because like these companies don't want their ads beside this topic matter. And like, I think that you are a smart guy and I think you know this. I don't know why you are acting like it doesn't make sense or you don't understand and it's wrong. Like, you must realize that it's just advertising stuff. They're not silencing you.
And then to get attack like this is it's just really unfair, especially when there are so many other inappropriate things on YouTube that I think would definitely or should definitely be age restricted / taken off YouTube completely, that they don't seem to target, but for some reason they love going after me. So it's like I don't even really know what to do anymore. It makes me want to stop covering stories and talking about history that ultimately is just going to get me in YouTube prison. But a ghost hunting video being demonetized, which, you know, obviously I'm counting on because it's my job, that's just unacceptable.
All right, just let that play a little bit longer and I'll just go over the list. There are other inappropriate things playing on YouTube. Yeah, I agree with you there. There are some stuff, but there are some very specific topics that almost all creators know, at least creators that are making money know about these inappropriate topics. And some of them probably already are age restricted or something of that nature. You can still come across the stuff. And then you say that they love going after you. It's because you have been shown time after time in the past year to be posting this kind of content. So you are on the list now. So yeah, the system is looking at you differently. YouTube actually pays attention to see if the ads that you claim that your content is about, like you have to fill out a form every time you post a video and say, what is my video about? And, you know, it's for advertiser friendliness and you have to answer all these questions. And if you don't answer truthfully, and if you're not being clear in your answers because you're trying to get ads run, or for whatever reason in your mind, I guess, that you think that this topic matter is okay to just talk about so easily, then you end up in this sort of bucket with YouTube where they start really looking into every little thing that you are covering and that you are posting, and they're going to be extra analytical about you. You can actually develop a bad reputation with the advertiser system as well. In here, you say you don't really know what to do anymore. I would suggest then, if you truly don't understand what's going on, reach out to your other fellow creators and ask them what's going on. Ask them to teach you about this stuff that everyone else seems to know, but you don't know. So go reach out for help. You are friends with a bunch of other ghost hunters who properly censor everything. Ask them for help. And then you end this off with, but a ghost hunting video being demonetized. All of your ghost hunting videos, the first half of it, a lot of them are like true crime or true history, and half of your videos end up on your Conspiracy Files channel. Like, your ghost hunting videos aren't just ghost hunting. The first half is like a breakdown of a bunch of stuff that's Conspiracy Files, inappropriate topics, things that are not being censored correctly. It's not just a ghost hunting video. Okay, sorry for that sidetrack. Honestly, I filmed a lot of this stuff a while ago. Not a while ago. I mean, yeah, a few days ago. And then I saw this video pop up, I think yesterday or something. And I was like, oh, well, this is a perfect add-on to the whole video I'm working on about the issues with, you know, Colin in particular, but there's other ghost hunters, but Colin in particular because of this topic matter that keeps coming up. All right, let's continue to the next thing. The moon landing hoax.
Astronaut Neil Armstrong's shadow next to the shadow of another object. The issue with this photo is that the shadows are not parallel, but why should they be? Theorists claim that if the sun was the only light source, the shadows should be parallel. However, experts have claimed to have debunked this theory because of the perspective of the photo. The debunk states that since it is a three-dimensional situation reduced to a two-dimensional plane, the lines may do many strange things that don't line up with what we think we should see.
Good on him for adding in the debunk, but he says both conspiracy theorists have claimed and experts have claimed. I just feel like using the word claimed makes it like, you know, you decide what's real kind of deal, where like the stuff has been debunked. It's been proven and debunked, but you know, his channel is trying to perpetuate conspiracy theories.
The second theory is much more scientific, that the astronauts should not have survived the radiation field that surrounds our planet. The Van Allen radiation belt surrounds the Earth, which is a zone in the magnetic field where high energy trapped particles from the sun are confined. Theorists state that the high amount of radiation should have killed the astronauts when they passed through this belt, but one professor had a reply that seemingly put the theory to bed. Professor Oha of the National Space Center, he states that the astronauts were not in the Van Allen radiation belt long enough to have sustained any permanent or lasting damage. However, the astronauts were technically in the belt for around 3 hours, receiving about 1.8 sieverts, a representation of the stochastic health risk of ionizing radiation. Exposure to more than 1 sievert leads to fatal injuries. So
It's been documented that exposure to over 1 sievert of this radiation can damage a person, and it can hit someone with fatal injuries. And the astronauts that were in that belt for 3 hours should have been exposed to 1.8 sieverts. So 2 times the amount of radiation that would lead to a fatal injury. Strange, right? The amount of radiation that the astronauts were exposed to should have at least led to nausea and vomiting. It could have led to 20% mortality and bone marrow changes, but it never did. So why did the astronauts not develop cancer, die prematurely, or show any ill effects from the radiation? In the same breath, many question the spacesuits used by the astronauts, saying that they could not have survived the radiation because they weren't accurately protected. The radiation should have killed them straight off, or at least should have caused cancers or other health defects. Measurements were taken of the astronauts' skin after their landing, and they read at about 0.18 rad, which matched radiation readings taken from missions that were restricted to low Earth orbit. So, because of this, many theorists began to claim that the Apollo 11 crew had only made it into orbit, and they then came back down. It is interesting. The aluminum shielding on the Apollo spacecraft also only amounted to a wall of lead about 7 millimeters thick. The spacesuits used.
I found all the following accurate information that debunks all of that stuff, and I found it all in under 3 minutes. Okay, even just the AI overview. The spacecraft's trajectory minimized time spent in the Van Allen radiation belt, and the spacecraft's aluminum shielding provided protection. So, to make it clear, the Van Allen belt isn't a solid mass that's the same in all areas. Some areas of it are thinner and move at different speeds. So they essentially planned the trajectory, the path around how the Van Allen belt moves, how thick or thin some areas are, and so forth. They pretty much skirted the belt and traveled through a second one very quickly. The Van Allen belts are shaped like a donut that cling to the Earth on the sides and have no presence at the pole. So the safest route is to travel up from the pole. But this wasn't feasible for them because they'd need more fuel for launching near the equator. So the compromise was to launch the spacecraft at an angle to avoid as much of Van Allen belts as possible, and thus giving them a minimum exposure trajectory. And as I was already thinking, the radiation exposure numbers that they're throwing out would be for an astronaut outside the spacecraft during transit through the belts. The spacecraft did protect them a lot. It cuts down 14 rads per hour exposure so that it's completely harmless because they're not in that belt for hours and hours. And that's from nasa.gov. Okay, so this is a document from NASA with the math here, and they're saying some people believe that the landings were a hoax because the astronauts would have been instantly killed by the radiation belt, and according to OSHA, a lethal radiation dose is 300 rads per 1 hour. So according to the radiation dosimeters carried by Apollo, their total dosage for the entire trip was not more than 2 rads over 6 days. So it says total dosage for the trip is only 16 rads.
Conspiracy number 4. Why didn't the astronauts die from radiation exposure? The spacecraft's hull shielded the astronauts from being exposed to lethal radiation while traveling through the Van Allen belts, layers in Earth's magnetic field that trap solar wind particles, creating high levels of radiation. Once cleared, they were exposed to natural background radiation.
You certainly wouldn't want the astronauts on the surface of the moon in their spacesuits for days on end. But for the hours that we're talking about on the lunar surface, the radiation environment is comparable to the radiation environment we have here.
It's just, this is all misinformation that he's spreading. Okay, this is just a conspiracy theory thing, but we're going to get to where this links into paranormal investigations. I'm not going to spend forever breaking down the entire moon landing. That probably deserves its own video. The smiley face conspiracy. Let's take a look at what I have some stuff already lined up, and we can take a look at some others. We have the smiley face killers. Okay. Now, this is on his Paranormal Files channel right here, the smiley face killers. And he does a lot of his episodes, like he does like a true crime intro or whatever. and then he does like an investigation, a paranormal investigation at the end. So on the Conspiracy Files channel, it's just the true crime part with the paranormal investigation removed. And a lot of the videos that he has on his Conspiracy Files channel is just the first half of the video that he put on his Paranormal Files channel. So his Paranormal Files channel, he's doing investigations on things that are conspiracies and hoaxes. So the smiley face murder theory. This is the theory that people have, that they believe that all these drownings of young men, are connected to smiley face killers. So these people have theorized that it's after they've been leaving parties and so forth, they get attacked by someone. And they say that this was all linked because they found graffiti depicting smiley face near locations where they think the killer had dumped the bodies. Now, the thing is, this smiley face thing was not found at all locations, and the graffiti, some people have said, is old. It wasn't freshly made when these people got taken, right? So all the police departments do not currently view the deaths as associated with anything to do with a smiley face, and a bunch of them, they're saying, aren't associated in general, that there is a drowning issue over in this area of I believe it's Wisconsin, right? They're all concluding that the deaths were accidental drownings. And criminal profiler Pat Brown calls the serial killer theory ludicrous, arguing that the evidence does not fit what is known about serial killers. Brown also believes that the smiley face images found in the cases are likely nothing more than coincidences based upon guesses as to where the bodies entered the water. Like, these smiley faces are finding graffiti around the city and going, oh, they must have grabbed this guy and murdered him this location because there's a smiley face graffiti on the wall. And a lot of these graffitis have been there forever, right? And there's smiley face on graffiti all over the place. It's just something that people paint really quickly. It's around a lot. It's not an unusual symbol, and it's not connected to any sort of timeline. Even the FBI doesn't agree either. They did look into it, and they do not find any evidence to support links between all of these deaths. They've said the vast majority appear to be alcohol-related drownings. So, and I was looking up, were there smiley faces found at every crime scene? And that's where they were explaining that no, they were found at different locations. There was different ages to the paint. They couldn't prove, and a bunch of them never even looked like they were created when that person died. They looked much older, that they've been sitting on a wall for even longer. So the smiley faces, they weren't a consistent thing across all the cases. And some of them, there was no smiley faces at all. But there's been a bunch of documentaries, and there was a movie called Happy Face Killer or something like that then blew up the whole conspiracy theory around this. There was research done as well by the Homicide Center, and they even talk about the problems with this theory. They say there's a problem with time order, and they explain that the graffiti must be proven to have been painted at or immediately after the time of the killing. A bunch of the photographs of the graffiti show faded, worn-out paint that looks to have been applied years earlier. In some cases, the graffiti was found months after the bodies were found. As well, the paint could not be matched forensically either. And smiley faces were first invented in 1964, and since then they've spread everywhere, and they're around a lot on tons of graffiti. None of the smiley faces also match one another. They weren't drawn by the same person. But then that's when the conspiracy theories were like, well, it's different murderers, and they're leaving that behind to let the other person know of their murder and brag about it or something. There's some other things that they go over as well too. I talk about the proximity is very distant from a lot of the bodies. I mean, there's ones where they found no smiley face nearby, so people are trying to link it to some other smiley face that is way too far away from where they would have entered the water or whatever. As well, all of the bodies recovered, there's no trauma on the bodies. There's no evidence of anyone attacking them. So that pretty much points to accidental drownings. And drownings, homicide by drowning is extremely rare as well, because they're bringing up the percentage for that. And water does not wash away all the evidence. It is a myth. So they'd be finding evidence, which they haven't found any evidence of someone else touching the body or killing them or whatever. As well, the drownings don't really fit a serial killer motif. And different, it says different inmates have confessed to it. They just want attention. That's a very common thing. And the environment of this area is actually conducive to accidental drownings. I did watch some video of the area, and it is, unfortunately, especially if people are very inebriated. And then it talks about, well, why is it only men that have been reported? First of all, there's probably some females, but they don't talk about them a lot. But second of all, they're saying that men are more likely to pass by accidental drowning due to inebriation because men tend to do more risky behavior and tend to drink more as well. Even in this area, foot patrols have stopped over 50 intoxicated persons from 2006 to 2010 from approaching the river late at night. Like, they stopped them from walking into the river. So, like, this is a problem, obviously. It's very well known that people accidentally fall into this river. Like, they have so much proof as to why this is just not a killing. It's not a serial killing. And this is the homicidecenter.org, and they're a group of volunteers, nonprofit. Especially, they started under the name Minnesota Gay Homicide Study, because a lot of people believe that the smiley face killers are going after men, and they think it's maybe related to, you know, homosexuality killings or something. And like, it just doesn't seem to be. Like, these bodies aren't even showing attack or any sign of damage to them. Now, I'm just going to play you some of the beginning of this so you can see he's just reusing content from his other channel, which is concerning that he's putting these conspiracy theories on his paranormal channel. Okay, this is the Paranormal Files video.
As of the recording date of this video, the detectives that I'm about to interview who pioneered the smiley face killer theory believe that there are over 700 men across America who possibly could have been murdered by this group of serial killers, whose deaths have been forgotten about, covered up, and whose friends and families have been silenced. In today's episode, we'll be discussing a few of these victims, telling their stories, and then visiting the locations of where their bodies were found in both Minnesota and Wisconsin in order to search for the dark answers ourselves.
And here's the Conspiracy Files channel.
As of the recording date of this video, the detectives that I'm about to interview who pioneered the smiley face killer theory believe that there are over 700 men across America who possibly could have been murdered by this group of serial killers, whose deaths have been forgotten about, covered up, and whose friends and families have been silenced. In today's episode, we'll be discussing a few of these victims, telling their stories, and then visiting the locations of where their bodies were found in both Minnesota and Wisconsin in order to search for the dark answers ourselves.
So, like I said, he's just reusing the same content, right, on both channels. Now, the issue is that when he goes to do these paranormal investigations, as you've seen, they're famous for taking things from their ITC devices and saying that this is new proof of something. So they're skewing already true crime, and then they're coming in with the conspiracy files stuff. The majority of them are outlandish. And then they're bringing that over to the Paranormal Files, trying to give credibility to these conspiracies. And also, have they skewed any conspiracies with any of their ITC device stuff? Because they seem to like to do that. Also, you know, there's a rule on YouTube about reusing content, like using your same content on multiple channels and things like that. And I think he's probably okay because he's got like the ghost hunt in there too. But if he's already on YouTube's radar because of the advertising issues, he should be careful with the reusing content, because YouTube doesn't like it when we duplicate our content across multiple channels to make money off the same stuff. So there is rules about that. And I've seen people get demonetized, like their whole channel gets demonetized and they lose their partnership status over it too.
So this is where the bodies washed up of these young men. Are you trying to say we're at the wrong area because this isn't where they were placed in the water? WY, Wyoming?
Yeah.
Can you tell us why they're
Madison, Wisconsin.
That's really weird.
Us. This wrong area.
Wow.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Well, he mentioned Madison today.
Oh, he did?
Our call.
And right there, Colin wants Madison to work for a location because it was mentioned on one of his calls with the detectives who believe in this conspiracy theory.
There's a cell there. So let me ask, try to use this device, please, to give us a yes or a no. Are you saying Madison, as in there are more victims in Madison that have never been connected? Consortium.
What's in Madison? Is it more victims? Can you use that blue box? Tell us yes or no.
Attach.
So, like we talked about, they kind of ignore stuff that doesn't match their narrative that they're trying to create. So they kind of look over a lot of the words that are coming through if it doesn't match their narrative. And we don't know how long they've been standing there, how many edits have gone in. All these ITC device things are just completely garbage, to be honest. They're just complete nonsense.
Delta, river term.
Mm-hmm.
Does one or more of the killers who committed these crimes live in Madison, Wisconsin?
Yes.
Wow.
First off, there's a cut, so we don't know that happened immediately after. But second off, 5 in a row with that device that hasn't been going off this whole time. It sounds like there's something wrong with it. And his brother-in-law there actually explains what's wrong with it later and kind of outs them by accident.
Delta Nowhere Airline. It's weird. We're flying Delta tomorrow morning.
And just a second ago, you said Delta was related to a river. So, you can just make this stuff work for whatever narrative you're trying to build.
This thing is tweaking out.
Just too cold.
Happy.
And oops, right there, your brother-in-law just kind of gave it away as to why your device did 5 times, because it's tweaking out is too cold. So all your devices come into question. You see, they're just changing the narrative of stuff, and with conspiracy theories, it just further muddies the water because these things aren't even true to begin with.
The Truth also ventured into unconventional territory, including consultations with psychics who revealed to the family some pretty insane evidence and embracing some conspiracy theories, such as claims of a satanic cult's involvement in Chris's death.
Right here, he's saying that this family decided to listen to psychics who then said that it was satanic cults and also told them that the police were wrong about the way that they found the bodies. It's ridiculous.
Through their investigation, they discovered that the condition of Chris's body was inconsistent with the police's assertions of an accident or suicide. Typically, drowning victims are recovered lying face down, with their arms extended outward, their clothing in disarray, often missing one or both shoes. This is because the natural instinct during a drowning involves frantic movements of the arms and legs in an effort to stay afloat. In contrast, Chris's body was recovered lying on his back, with his arms perfectly crossed like this over his chest. His shirt remained neatly tucked into his drawstring pants, and he was still wearing both oversized slip-on shoes.
To start this whole description of how he was found, a psychic said this, not the police. But let's apply some critical thinking to it anyway, made up, to be honest, or at least I question the majority of it. For one, I'll just point out, if they're very inebriated and they're passed out in the water and that's how they drown, they're not going to kick and they're not going to knock all their clothing off. All right. There's that. Number 2, he was found his arms crossed in front of him. Rigor mortis only stays on the body for 2 to 6 hours. After that, every body is flaccid again. So the chances of them finding a body in the water with his arms crossed over, that's just impossible unless they found it within 2 to 6 hours. So Chris went missing October 31st, 2002, and his body was found February 27th, 2003. That is multiple months later. There would be no rigor mortis holding the arms crossed. This is what I mean about Colin doesn't even seem to be doing research, nor is he critical thinking. He's just accepting crazy theories that people are giving him. Bohemian Grove. Okay, I'm just going to talk about one more of the videos that he has here because, there's so many in this video already. It's very, very long. Right, and there's a video here for Bohemian Grove, and there's a lot of misinformation about Bohemian Grove and people trying to say that it's a Satanist group and everything. It's literally just a bunch of, it started off as artists and they all met together, and then eventually people bought, it was an exclusive club essentially that met in the forest, and they were all artists and enjoyers of nature. Then rich people were like, I don't want to feel left out, so they started kind of buying their way in, and then Bohemian Grove has turned into a gathering of super rich people, a lot of people in business, and they all got to get together, and it's only men. And they just kind of drink and do dumb stuff for a weekend or a week or something. It's like a festival for rich businessmen at this point. It's not a satanic cult. There's no dark secrets. It's literally just it's like the Freemasons. It's a men's club, and they just get together and mainly talk about business at the Bohemian Grove one, which is what a lot of these male clubs have turned into, is networking opportunities for business. But trying to like push this narrative of them being cults and politicians do go to this retreat, this get together. I think it's like once a year, I believe. But they're trying to push these politicians are involved with these cults and they're doing all these horrible things in Bohemian Grove. And it's not the case. It's just like a rich man's Coachella. That's pretty much what it is. Then he, of course, covers Marilyn Monroe conspiracies too. There's a bunch of stuff on here, and most of them have a corresponding paranormal video. See, we have Bohemian Grove right here. All I see is all of his stuff now is very shock value. It is adding to the satanic panic and the sort of QAnon movement. And we have our conspiracy theories. And he just is going like way overboard with this stuff and turning this into paranormal videos and paranormal stories and changing ghost stories and then getting people worked up and scared. There's a lot of fear mongering going on here too. Like, this channel is very toxic towards someone's mental health. Just the inclusion of like tying everything to a conspiracy theory. This is really bad. And this does not help with the paranormal field and help with us trying to actually investigate real paranormal stories and places that are supposed to be haunted. Now we're being inundated with these shock value Hollywood style, like fear mongering conspiracy theory documentary crap. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say on this conspiracy theory stuff. I could go on forever on it, honestly. And I know this video is already running really long. So I'm going to move into the next section where I also discuss some other ghost hunters that are doing really crappy things too. And, you know, these same issues are coming up with other people, and just the morality of some of these people is very questionable. Other problematic ghost hunters. So obviously there's other people that are an issue, and we'll just talk about a few. Like, there's a ton that we could name, and honestly, you could go through any of the ITC medium channels, but I'm trying not to include mediums in this discussion because mediums and psychic is a whole other side of it. There's like ghost hunters and paranormal investigators doing this that shouldn't be doing this. But mediums and psychics has always been a problem. So like, I kind of treat them as two different buckets because mediums and psychics have been doing this crap forever. And at least with mediums and psychics, people don't really take it seriously, but paranormal investigators, for whatever reason, people take them seriously, even though like it's really fake nowadays. Like, I don't understand why people take them so seriously. So anyways, we're going to start with one of our major culprits, of course, is Zak Bagans. And on top of him, obviously his show is just ridiculous, and like, there's so much fake stuff, there's so much overacting. He puts on a character as well all the time. Like, it's just so fake. If anything, I've watched it just because I thought it was funny, but then I kind of stopped watching it because Zak is kind of a jerk, you know, and I don't really want to support him. So he's not really a great person, but he's kind of taken over everything paranormal that's on TV. I've noticed like has his name on it, and he's kind of taken over. And I've heard through grapevines, I mean, many of you have heard that people who try to start other paranormal shows pretty much just get like blackballed out of the industry because you got to do it under Zak or you don't do it at all. And so I'm not supporting that guy because he's not a good person. He really isn't. And as an example of him not being a good person, he actually has like different sections in his museum. He has ones for war memorabilia. He has ones for serial killers, things like that. And like the war memorabilia, he just recently got some Saddam Hussein clothing, which the guy who brought it to him, he calls himself the sheriff of Baghdad. And the story that he tells of it, I don't know, like it's kind of iffy because technically those items should belong to the country that they came from. But he's like, oh, well, he gave them to me like before he died, but he was there befriending him under an operation. So technically he shouldn't be able to sell those items, right? Like, there's some laws about stuff like this. Anyway, it's kind of scummy, I think, for Zak to have these sections as well in his museums. And it just further perpetuates and gives any sort of spotlight to these horrible people that really shouldn't have a spotlight, right? Like, you should be remembering the victims and not the tyrants, you know? And you can see here's like TMZ story, and this is the sheriff of Baghdad guy. With that guy, like, I don't know, when he talks, he kind of gives me the creeps. Like, something's off about him. So yeah, that's the latest item that he recently acquired for his museum. As well, there is a section dedicated to like SKs, killers and everything. And I just wanted to read you some comments of people who've been to the museum that I found on Reddit too. And these were substantiated too. Like, I was talking to Victor, and this stuff is all in this museum. So these aren't made up comments. So I did look into it. So they kind of talk about it here. And here this person says, I visited the museum in 2021. I lost all respect seeing that room with the bed of the serial killer who beat and essayed and tortured men on the bed. The bed is there. There were pictures of the victims in that room too, taken by the killer as they were being, that room made me sick. Zak milks money off people's misery. Why is it necessary to have those photos there? The victims and their family went through enough. I'm surprised he hasn't been sued. If it's those type of photos and taken by the perpetrator, like, that's just wrong. Like, that is totally messed up. And this someone else here says that they were shocked to see that as well, and surprised that no one else has brought it up. And it's obviously very unethical too. And some of Manson's remains are there as well on display. It's I think it's very unethical. I don't agree with having this stuff here. So, and a lot of people said that they went there expecting to see haunted items, but it's really like an oddities museum, as Victor put it, versus actual haunted item museum. Yeah, and then a lot of people are talking about the men on the walls. It's not right. Oh, and they also, Victor told me this tonight too, is that he has Kevorkian's van, and that's the van where he actually did his euthanasia in. And he has that van. He has the van, and he has it on display too. Like, that is just, it's sick. He has as well one of Gacy's pogo costumes, the shirt that Richard Ramirez wore during trial too. And Bundy's kill kit too, and Gacy's paintings. Oh, apparently there's some also blood of the victims too. Like, this stuff is crazy. And like, this is real. This is actually at this museum. Victor's like, yeah, no, all this stuff is there. Like, it's sick. I don't know. Anyway, this is just another example why Zak is the worst person in the world, honestly. It used to be like John Edward was the biggest douche of the universe, but I don't know. I think it's Zak now, guys. And just to show you, this is the display of the Charles Manson stuff, just so that you can see that it is a thing. I'm not going to bring up all the pictures of every little thing, also because some of them I think inappropriate, and I don't want to put them on here. But I'm just showing you that this room dedicated to people like this, it does exist. So, and I guess one more again on this stupid website that has a bajillion ads. He got the full skeleton, fully sealed remains of Samuel Little, who took the life of 93 women, and he has that, and he's going to put that on display. Like, seriously, like, why do people support Zak? Like, he's sick. This is disgusting. Then, because Boo Productions mentioned Paranormal Nightmare, and, I'm just going to show you guys a clip if you don't know about the situation that Beardo highlighted recently as well. But these guys also make the cut for doing really shitty things. They do home investigations, and they end up, like, making up stuff and, like, telling people, like, on YouTube that this house had a demon, and the person's like, there's no demon here, or is there a demon here? And then they get scared. They primarily do residential homes, so they're really using people and their homes and their personal stories to make money on YouTube, and then they just ignore the people after they're done. Like, it's really disgusting what they do too. So let's take a little bit of a clip of Beardo explaining a situation that happened, and if you want to learn more, I will put the links as well below, and you can take a look at the whole series. There's a part 2 that Beardo did as well.
This is Jed. Jed looks like a broken man. Jed asked for help from the Foreman brothers, and this is what he got.
The one in the attic's going off right now, then.
Oh, Jesus! A little bit of footage there. You see Josh Foreman hears something move in the house, something that's reported to happen in this house. He steps out of shot, and whilst he is out of shot, something bangs, and these 3 clowns jump about screaming, "Oh, hell no." What a way to put somebody that's asked you for help at ease. Josh, Rocky, and Sean Foreman, aka the Foreman brothers, aka Paranormal Nightmare. 3 brothers who suffered a childhood haunting that have gone on to become prominent figures in the paranormal through their investigations on YouTube and their other media projects. Weirdos, Weirdos, Boss Girls, how are you all doing? That little introduction I wrote there, it would fall in line with what the Foreman brothers do, what people think of the Foreman brothers, despite the fact that I've caught them faking. Anyone remember the demonic head in the window that turns out to be a bush? Mythos and the Sheep catching them faking, me catching them faking numerous times, them investigating a fake haunting from a TikTok family. But the Foreman brothers always got away with more than others because in the back of everyone's minds, but they do help people. They are so kind and they come across very well. My initial interactions with the Foreman brothers were great. They respected my opinion on things. They respected my tenacity in the way I debunk and the way in which I stand up for people when they are treated the wrong way on the platform. Up until I dared question them. And I questioned them politely. And suddenly those good old Christian boys, they turned the screw. They started banning people in the communities for supporting me. They started telling paranormal teams that they're no longer allowed to associate with them if they continue to support me. They made claims of bullying. They made claims of toxicity. But one of the more egregious things that they did was claim that debunkers do nothing but steal content. While they were happy for me to make content about them in a positive manner, that wasn't theft. As soon as I questioned, suddenly I'm a content thief. But what happens when these good old Christian boys turn their backs on the people that made the channel for them? And I'm not talking about their audience. So if you've watched the Foreman brothers at all, you know they go into private locations where people have asked for help with hauntings. And 9 times out of 10, the Foreman brothers are quick to shout out, it's demonic. In fact, the video that I'm going to be discussing, whilst not showing much of it, is labelled a demonic haunting. But that was never the case with this house. How would I know that? Because I've been speaking to the family involved in this case, the family that the Foreman brothers initially set out to help. So on the 3rd of December at 2:25 in the afternoon, I received a series of messages from a gentleman called Jed Linneman. He doesn't mind me using his name because the episode with the Foreman brothers is still up on their channel. And obviously he uses his real name in the video, so I'm not doxing anyone here. And his message reads, please get in touch with me. Paranormal Nightmare done an investigation on my haunting, and I desperately need your opinion. I also have some very interesting information you will be interested in hearing about how they conduct their investigations. And when I get things like this, I'm initially a little standoffish because I have to link that this person was really in the video, and then I have to make sure it's not just an angered fan and things like that. So I respond with, hello, how can I help? Just to warn you, Paranormal Nightmare do not like me at all, and I'm not a fan of theirs. And first of all, do you have a link to the episode? I can give you my opinion on it, but I will only ever be truthful. And I have watched the episode, and it's the usual Paranormal Nightmare Foreman Brothers nonsense, where the equipment and the mobile phone applications are the proof of the paranormal. Strangely, this is one of the few episodes of the Foreman Brothers I've watched where things happen that are reported to happen in that house that I have not been able to debunk. But I've only quick scanned through it. There are reports of doors opening and closing on their own, of banging and knocking, and that happens in this investigation. And how do these very professional, helpful paranormal investigators react when something bangs in a room with them? They run away screaming. So Jed replies to me with, I've been watching you a lot lately, and that's what prompted me to try and get in touch with you. I respect your work very much, and I greatly appreciate your response. I asked them for help because I had no one else to turn to, and they appeared to care about helping families. My question for you is, did they fake anything in my investigation for views? Because after the activity started back up, they have refused to have any contact with me again, or refused to have any contact with me again after the premiere. My episode is season 13, episode 6, but I'll see if I can find a link to it for you. And the Foreman brothers labelled this Demon House, Paranormal Nightmare TV. Jed makes no claims of demonic attachments. In fact, Jed isn't even religious. I need help.
You can watch the entire story of what happened there and part 2. Essentially, Beardo talks to the guy. He figures out that the family's been doing a lot of really heavy stuff, mental illness and just stress and depression and anxiety and all that. And Beardo thinks a lot of it's being kind of caused by what's going on there. He ends up getting them some help, and some people that Beardo trusts, and they go over to try to help these guys. But the main thing is, like, these guys ignore any messages that came after. Like, they were just using them for their story. And then Susan Gerbic, my friend of mine who does the psychic busting, and I've interviewed her, she ended up getting an email from one of her viewers saying, oh, these guys are so great. They do, like, they're all Christian boys, and essentially, like, I've never really watched them much, but the way that it was kind of worded is almost like they kind of come in and do prayers, and they kind of act like priests, like blessing the home and stuff. And then they sent Susan this stuff and was like, this is definitive proof of a ghost. And so Susan did a video on it, and I just responded to her. I was like, no, these guys are fake. They did this thing to this guy recently. Like, I filled her in on everything going on with these guys, right? And like, they're not good people. So like, this is just like an example of another group, and these guys were called out before. They've been called out multiple times now. And it's just one more example of ghost hunters, like, taking a narrative or whatever that they want to spin, taking advantage of the victims, also that they can get their clicks and their views and their, spotlight for the week or whatever it might be. And I'm sure there's other examples out there, honestly, and there's so many mediums and psychics, obviously, too. So, but I just found it really frustrating, especially tying in conspiracy theories. Like, it's one thing to be disrespectful of, like, crime that happened, victims, families, and everything like that. But it's another thing to, like, then incorporate conspiracy theories that are like hoaxes and things that are proven to not be true, and then try to incorporate that into these situations, or try to say that these things happen when they never really did at all, and there are no victims and there is nothing there, but you're scaring people into thinking that there is, and it's like it's a whole thing anyway. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I know this is a lot of stuff to digest, and this is a little bit of a different kind of video because I'm still doing like a bit of a deep dive on stuff, but it wasn't like a biography particularly on anyone, because I really just wanted to highlight the content that he's been creating over the last, I don't know, it's been a year and a half or something like that. It's just really about the content he's making most of all. So leave your thoughts below in the comments. Let me know what you think. If there's other, like, ghost hunters too that you want to mention that should be looked into for this kind of stuff too, leave them in the comments below as well. We can take a look at them as well too. Also, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It does help with the algorithms and such. As well, I want to thank all the members too, and if you're interested in membership, you can click the join button below to find out more. It includes things like early access, special access, members only videos and recording sessions, and so forth. All right, thank you guys for stopping by and watching this video. And yeah, leave me your comments below and let me know what you think about this issue that's going on. I'll talk to you all later. Have a good rest of your week.